Hi, this is Roger. All together now. Thanks for dropping by. Together or not at all. We used to have a comedian, he's sadly passed away now, that used to own a club down in Cornwall where he was from, and would appear at random in his own club despite having guests on. A little controversial, but his stand-up routine used to start in a certain way, and really this is how yesterday should have started. Right, before we bloody well start, I've had a hit of a day. And that's how he used to start his routine. I'll tell you why that springs to mind. I left home at 11:15 yesterday morning to get to the Orchid Society meeting for around just after 12, allowing for stopping and calling in the little local shop to get a sandwich or something for lunch. And that has always worked quite well, really, until yesterday. Now, I live one side of a market town called Ringwood, which is right on the edge of the A31, which is one of the main roads along the south coast. Dual carriageway, joins onto a motorway network and continues as the A35 right down into Devon, into the West Country. So it's a main thoroughfare. This little town that I have to go through, I started queuing about half a mile outside of the town. Now sometimes that's nothing more than a lorry making a delivery that blocks one side of the road, because, you know, it's an old town, so the roads are narrow. Anyway, I didn't think too much of it. Also, predicted to be a boiling hot day, and the whole of the surrounding area empties into that area to get to the beach, to get sand in their sandwiches, flies buzzing around their face, and sat squashed up like this. That's what the beach is like in that sort of weather. Hell, I call it. I head in the opposite direction, but I couldn't. So it took me half an hour to get through the town. So I've now used up my contingency. Instead of arriving nice and early so that I can chat before the meeting started at 12:30, I'm now starting to think I'm in a bit of a rush to get there for 12:30 because I've lost me half an hour. When I got to the big main road, the dual carriageway, it's above you. So you can only see the traffic. Oh, this is going to mess some people up because they drive the other side of the road. They drive the wrong side of the road, so some would say. But basically, I could only see the traffic heading west, whereas I'm going to head east. So I go under the flyover and onto the slip road to join the dual carriageway. So I couldn't see that side of the road from before I got underneath onto the slip road and joined a queue. Now that's a long, slow hill. It's about a mile long, slow hill. So any heavy lorries or anything like that grind to a halt. Of course, then everybody tries to barge into the outside lane and grinds that to a halt. So this is often a bit of a problem, you know, in busy periods. I didn't think too much of it. Anyway, I eventually got on the dual carriageway and stopped. And sat there and sat there. And eventually, on the radio, it came round and actually said they'd closed the road. This is the main dual carriageway across the whole of the south of England. They've closed it. Now normally to close a major road like that, it means somebody's died. There's been an accident or some serious incident and somebody's actually died. That becomes a crime scene. They have to do measurements and photographs and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I assumed. Anyway, an hour and a half later, I had done just over 1 mile, because what they'd done is they had closed the road and they're pulling the whole of the contents of this dual carriageway off onto a little tiny forest road. A little tiny forest road where the ponies can walk on the road, leading to a tiny little village with narrow streets, which then leads on through a forest road out onto the other south road, the A35, where everybody else has now gone. So I joined the A35 eventually because this forest road was stop go. You know, I mean, people who aren't used to driving in the forest, they see a horse on the horizon and stop. Whereas people who know the forest ponies, they can be right on the edge of the road. If their head's down, they're staying there. All they will do is take a step or two forward. They're feeding. However, if their head comes up, be prepared to take avoiding action because they might just walk straight out in the road. But you get to know the forest pony's body language. So that was stop go all the way. Anyway, I joined the A35 to head into Lyndhurst and then on my way and joined a 6-mile queue to get into that next town because the whole of the dual carriageway had now gone onto a single carriageway road where everybody else had gone because they'd heard the road was closed. 4 hours it took me to do 35 miles in that heat. If I hadn't had air conditioning, I'd have had to bail out and go home because I wouldn't have been able to stand being in the car. The people stuck on the dual carriageway like after that junction, but before the accident where the police had sort of stopped them, they were all out of the cars trying to find some shade because they weren't going to go anywhere. Then you find out that this accident involved 3 cars and there were some minor injuries. Minor injuries. Just get the cars off the road. At least open one lane. Oh, we just cannot cope in this country. This country is broken. It just doesn't work. I suspect the whole of that was geared up to health and safety. What about the health and safety of the elderly people and the people with children that are stuck in their cars? Basically that road opened after 3 hours. Yeah? 3.5 actually. What about all the people stuck in their cars with little children? Elderly folks. People who were only doing a short journey that didn't have a drink. What about their health and safety? So we didn't have a good day. So I arrived at the Orchid Society just as the talk was finishing. One that I was quite interested in actually hearing, so I missed it. So basically I spent 4 hours in a car doing a 35-mile journey to actually have a piece of cake and a coffee and turn around and come home again. We were not happy because most of that was not necessary. That's the way I see it. Anyway, so before we start, so that was yesterday. Prior to that, in our broken England, I had the magic letter from Virgin, my internet supplier. This happens at the end of my contract period and says, you used to pay this, you're now going to pay the full price. And I phone them up and say, no, I'm bloody not. And I phoned up basically and I could not understand the person on at the other end. Their accent was so thick. I was hearing about one word in 3 or 4. This is call centres in another country. I won't mention which flipping one. But if their English isn't good, they shouldn't get the job. So I hung up. I then phoned back about half an hour later. Took 20 minutes to get through. And got another one. Not as bad though. At least we could have a conversation. And basically, my internet had changed. I was paying, before the price increase, we'll get to that in a minute, I was paying for 250 download speed and 20 upload speed, and you get a bit more than that. Mine averaged about 265 and about 24, which I was more than happy with. I'm okay with that. But the new customer deals could get twice that for less than I was being paid, less than I was paying. So anyway, I phoned up to cancel. That's what you have to do. You have to threaten to cancel and explain to them that if I was a new customer, I'd get a really good deal. Well, how about looking after your loyal customers that have been with you for years? Isn't that important? Well, we have to get new customers or our business won't grow. I said it won't grow if people keep leaving you because you're charging too much, will it? Duh. Dumbos. So, we had the usual conversation and I got offered a deal. and the deal was an upgrade to my speed. So I've gone from 250 to 350, and my upload speed's gone from 25 to 35, which is really good because that's the bit that determines how fast my videos load onto YouTube. And I'm paying £1 more than I was before, and it's an 18-month contract. So, but we have to go through this ritual. Every time the contract comes to an end, they put it up to full price. I phone them up and try and cancel, and we have an argument, and then I get a new contract for the full period for around what I was paying before. And this time I got a speed increase as well. I suspect I was going to get that anyway. They make it sound like they've done you a favour, don't they? I was probably entitled to that anyway. Anyway, so that's got my internet sorted. And a nice faster speed as well. So, yeah, what else? Quite honestly, after yesterday spending that long in the car, which is quite a stressful thing, when I actually got there and actually spoke to Lynn, a lot of people didn't turn up. We had 4 other committee members as well as me. That's 5 committee members weren't there. That's half the committee didn't turn up. Some of them I don't know why. They hadn't even sent a text in to say they wouldn't be coming. So you're waiting for them and waiting. They didn't have the courtesy to just let somebody know. I mean, I phoned Lynn twice to let her know what was going on. The original phone call was about coming up to 12 o'clock, telling her I'm stuck in traffic, I'm not moving, I think the road's closed because it's not moving at all, or it's totally blocked by some sort of incident up the road. I can't find out what the incident is. I don't know how long it will be before I get going. But if I was moving at normal speed, I'm half an hour away, so I'll just about make it for the meeting. But I'm not, so I don't know when I'm going to get there. And then when I got right across the forest road over to the other road and joined this 6-mile queue to get into the town, I phoned again to say, I'm going to plod on with it because I've got this far. It just seems defeatist to turn around and go back. And the silly thing was, once I got onto the A road into Lyndhurst, the traffic the other way was stop go. That was all the idiots trying to get to the beach. That instead of getting up at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and going to the beach, they left it to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning, lazy gits. So just go and sit in the traffic for 2 or 3 hours with the kids when they want to be at the beach. Planning. So, all in all, things not going very well. My house inspection hasn't taken place and I haven't had the phone call yet, so that will be sometime next week, I presume. My car is booked in for Wednesday, back with the original guy, not the specialist. And I said, look, I've been coming to you for years. I trust you not to rip me off and do a good job. I don't like going to strangers when it's to do with the car, because it is so easy nowadays to charge twice the amount for the parts. I don't know what they cost, you know. And he said, yes, but I'm not an electrical specialist. And I said, yeah, but you do that sort of work. He said, yeah, there's a difference between being a specialist. I said, and he said, all right, just bring it in, I'll have a look at it. But at the end of the day, it still might have to go to a specialist. So I'm taking it in on Wednesday for my usual guy to take a look at it. At the end of the day, the driver's door has lost power. The power comes from somewhere to there. So somewhere between that bit and this bit, there's a wire off or a loose connection or something. Surely that's not that difficult if you've got the right tools to take panels off and things. He'll find it, I'm sure. So the car goes in on Wednesday. Ugh. And I've got nothing on this weekend, so if he has to keep it for a while, so be it. I can get a bus at the end of the road if I need to go anywhere. So that's that. I've got myself a list of the sort of plants that are drought tolerant and carpet forming to hopefully plant up some of the, you know, the paths in the garden, these bits. Hopefully put some plants along the edging to sort of soften the edge of those paths. So I've got myself a list together, and Carol said, send me the list, I might have some of them. So I've just sent her that list. It's a totally new list. to see if she's got any. And those of you who saw the video, I did actually get some plants already. They're all sedums. There's 3 different types, 2 of each, and I bought 2 packs. So there's actually 12 plants out there ready to go, and they spread, you know, they're carpet forming, so that'll be good. And sedums are very drought tolerant. They're growing, they'll hang out of a wall and still be happy, so they should be okay. So we've got that on the go. As far as the gardening channel is concerned, there's 1 video left to bring me up to date, so that I can get, like I am on this channel, I film something and I post it. Well, the gardening channel is almost there now. I'm not going to post that last video today, I'll leave it till tomorrow. And then I can clear out all the folders and everything where I've collected everything together, because I'll have finished. And the first garden video I will probably do is a tour. We'll have a look round. I've got some green bits coming up in that planted area that I don't know what they are. They're not weeds. There's something that's been planted and I can't think what on earth I put there. They look like some sort of bulb. But what bulbs would be coming up now? The bulbs that I planted were the bluebells. Well, they won't be coming up now. You know, they're spring bloomers. What else did we plant in there? Snowdrops. Well, again, they're late winter, early spring. They wouldn't, and the leaves don't look right. The only other bulbs I planted were those snake's head fritillaries. Would they be coming through now? Because I've never had them, so I wouldn't know. Something's coming through. Anyway, plus some things that were planted that died back that have started to grow some leaves, so they're actually okay. Things I thought I'd lost are sort of okay. There have been some losses out there, but not much. It was mainly the violets, you know, which are shade lovers, and they just haven't been able to take the heat. That was the last heat wave, not this one that's allegedly still in progress today. What? It was raining just now, but apparently it's changing to thunderstorms, potential thunderstorms. That probably means we'll get about 10 spots and you'll have to run around in them to get wet. And then the weather breaks. Monday or Tuesday, temperatures go back to normal for this time of year. You know, so in a way that will be good, because it's nice to see the sun, but the heat can be debilitating. It can drain your resources. You know, you sort of you don't feel like doing much. It's just too hot. And I've been in that state. I haven't tackled the bamboo out there. I need to get on and paint the shed. You know, I mean, I've got the stuff to do it, but I'm not working in that heat. So yeah. I've got a new orchid. This was from Lynn, and she said, I've got an orchid for you, you need this one. I'm not quite sure why I need it, but I've got it. Potted up division, Masdevallia, and I'm not quite sure on the writing. It's definitely COR, but then there's 1 or 2 letters I can't read, followed by CEA. So I'll do a Google on that, and it'll fill in the missing letters for me. And find out exactly what it is. But she said it's an unusual one. It has thick, fleshy roots, and it likes air around its roots. It's not one of these that does well with moss mixes or anything. So she's potted it up in small bark with some charcoal and some of these grow stones. So I'll leave it like that for the time being. But like I've said before, you know, what Lynn is giving me is her experience of this plant in her environment. Now in my environment, that mix might not work very well. I have to wait and see, but this is what I'm getting at. You know, you choose a mix for the type of plant, for your environment. Now I've got plants in my Let's Grow Some Roots mix, which is small bark, quite a bit of perlite, and broken up New Zealand sphagnum moss. Yeah, that's a relatively moisture retentive tentative mix. Now in this environment that's working for quite a lot of plants. I don't know whether that would have worked around the other place. Round the other place, mounts did really well. They don't here. Yeah? So, you know, you have to sort of, just because somebody says, oh, that grows really well in this mix. Yeah, that's for them. Might not do the same for you. You know, difference between dedicated greenhouse, conservatory, growing outside, growing in the home. You know, growing in the home with lights. Different parts of the world, so different temperatures, different humidity levels. All these have an effect on the plant's ability to grow in a certain mix. So it's not necessarily a mix that works for a plant in one environment might be wrong in another one. That's what I'm getting at. And sometimes you just have to experiment to find out. So that'll be good. The change to the everything in bloom on the 8th seems to have gone down well because it's now includes buds and spikes, and people have commented that it now means they can follow the progress from the initial sighting of a spike to the blooms opening. So rather than being what I call a statement video, here are the blooms, that's a statement, these are the blooms today. That's a, whatever you call it, a show video, these are they. It's now become a progress update. By definition, if I'm showing a plant that's just started a spike and a month later we have a look at it again, we see its progress, don't we? So that's changed the style of that video. It's still going to remain a monthly update. It's still based on everything in bloom, but it now includes everything moving towards those blooms from the point I see buds or spikes starting. So that's a change that I think will work. Yeah, I don't mind doing changes if they're going to work. Don't have to stick to exactly as it's always been. That's that. I got a hell of an insight into the way the new YouTube algorithms work based on viewer, because it's based on profiles. So you as a creator, YouTube creates a profile based on your metadata and your subject matter, your niche, all that, and it creates a profile for you and sits there with that, and it can get it wrong. Yeah? So, and then what it does then is it builds a profile of the sort of people that want to be with your profile, watching your videos, and presents them with your videos if there's a match. It's got complicated, but it still means you can not fiddle the algorithms, but you can tune your channel to make the algorithms work better for you. The hardest channels to manipulate, this was presented as 3 circular rings. So you've got an outer ring, a middle ring and an inner ring, and that was then divided into segments. And somewhere in there is like an oval shape that is your profile of what you do. And the example given was like lawns, lawn care. Well, your main video is about lawn care, so this is quite a niche environment, so it will be between the middle ring and the inner ring, which is the very niche environments, the outer ring being a more general approach to the subject. Yeah? So this will be between the middle ring and the inner ring, and it would cross over 3 segments. The main videos plus tools and equipment out to one side, and products and feeds and things out to the other side, which you don't talk about very often, but you do include in your oval shape, but your middle thing is about lawns. So you see how your profile is being built, yeah? And then you'll get YouTube, you happen to do a few videos on the trot that work really well about feeding lawns, and YouTube sets the profile up for you over into the segment that you don't do very often. So you can see how it can get it wrong. It's all good fun. I like looking at stuff like that. But it was explained very well, I must admit. Bugs all over the Shari Baby, which you saw on the Everything in Bloom. I sprayed it with the SB Plant Invigorator because it's a soapy wash. I'm just looking at bugs all over these leaves. They're dead. Right. Bugs on the flowers, basically gone. So I think I've hit that hard, but I think in a couple of days I'll give it another go, you know, in case there's any sort of things hatching out. But the good thing is it does half clean the leaves off nicely. It does do that job. Yeah, so that's that. Got no blooms opened since we last had Everything in Bloom, because that was only the other day. So nothing new. And events coming up. Nothing much now until the next event is the Bournemouth Orchid Society show. Now I don't film at that show, but what I might do this time to get a feel of what's there is use my phone to take some stills. These stills can be close-ups of blooms with the camera pointing slightly downwards so that there are no people in the photos. I might do that. I always said I would never film any of their stuff again because they get free advertising, but it's also a benefit for me, isn't it? I do get a video out of it. So I might do that. So that'll be the next event. There's also the big bonsai show coming up, Heathrow Bonsai Show. I should be going to that, nothing to do with orchids, but a day out. We've then got the Wessex Orchid Society show, and literally the day after that is the Devon Orchid Society show at Burnham's Nurseries, which I will be going to. Lynn hasn't made her mind up whether she's coming with me yet, because she only comes back from holiday on the Saturday of our show. She's not sure whether she'll want a whole day out the next day, having just got back off holiday, so yet to be decided. I said, quite honestly, you can leave that decision till the morning if you like. All I need to know when I leave here is, am I picking you up or not? That's all I need to know. Nothing else, so she may come along, I don't know. And then that'll be the last, that's it then. That's the last event of the year. Unfortunately, that is also the same day as the Blackmore Vale Bonsai Auction, which I wanted to go to. Well, you know, 2 events on the same day, you can only go to one, can't you? And it's more beneficial to me to go to the Devon Orchid Society show, because they have individual members of the society bring plants along to sell at obviously greatly reduced prices compared with the nursery prices. So that's the events coming up. As far as here is concerned, we are back to what I call normal now. So, you know, normal sort of orchid videos, me not going missing for any length of time. I do have a garden I want to visit, but visiting gardens is weather dependent. I was going to do it last week, and then I thought, you're going to walk round a garden in this heat? And I thought, no, you're not going to do that. So I gave it a miss. But if there's a nice day coming up during this week when it's cooler, I don't even mind if it's not sunny, as long as it's not raining and not boiling hot like it has been. I might visit that garden. Obviously the video will be on the garden channel, it'll be a specific garden video. But what I plan on doing when there's something a bit special on the gardening channel is I'll mention it on the orchid channel as well, because I do have quite a few people that are doing both. So, you know, if you are doing that sort of thing, the gardening videos have been almost every day to catch up. They won't be now. You know, it's not too long and we'll be going into winter. There won't be much to film in the garden in the winter. So we shall see. But we've got autumn colour coming up. So we can get involved with that. I'll do one orchid update because it is of interest. My Paphiopedilum blackjack that's doing something weird. and I've got a feeling, no, it's not going to do it twice. The bud is just starting to crack, so that will be open over the next couple of days. The smaller bud is growing. So I thought it might be like a stump that did nothing. It's growing. That's a lot bigger than last time we looked at this. So we're going to have 2 blooms on that spike, plus we've got another spike pushing on down here. That looks like it'll just be a single one. We shall see. But that plant is doing really well. This is the impressive bit. What's in the pot? That is a smashing set of roots. And look at this lot here. So that's good. Let's pop that back. And those of you who know Mix Masdevallia's channel, if not, do a search on it. Well, what does he grow then? Mix Masdevallia's. Take a guess. I was talking about a certain Masdevallia that's Hannah's favourite Masdevallia of all time. I've tried growing it several times and lost them, but I haven't tried growing it here. And Mick says he's going to divide one soon and send it to me, so we should get that. We'll have an unboxing. We haven't had one of them for a long time, literally. So we should have a new plant. That'd be good. I mean, it might seem that I'm going mad on the Masdevallias, but they do seem to be doing particularly well. We've always said, you know, if you find something that grows well in your environment, then you can go mad. Don't go mad and then find out they don't grow, you know. But these are doing well. The talk yesterday was Helen Milner. You could look her up. She's actually quite famous, really. It was a talk on terrariums and mounting orchids for in the home, and environments you could create to enable you to do that sort of thing. And she brought along lots of Restrepia kikis in individual little bags for people to help themselves, to have a go. That's good, you know. I didn't take any, I've got enough of my own, thanks. And I thought there's not enough for everybody. But yeah, if you think about it, yesterday, her and her other half, her driver, as we call him, we're going to get him a peak cap one day. They came down from the Midlands. They had some traffic issues, but you know, they probably drove 150 miles in half the time I took to do my flipping journey, and I missed the talk at the end of the day, which is a shame. But yeah, it's a subject that I could do, but I don't think I will. A terrarium is a good idea, but this house is fundamentally dark. You know, this is the light place, and I've got an environment here that doesn't really need a terrarium to do anything special. The idea of that is that you can grow the moisture-loving plants like miniature Masdevallias, Restrepias, miniature ferns, mosses, all that sort of stuff that doesn't grow too big, in an environment that's heavy on the humidity. But to do it properly, you need lights and you need air movement, and you need things for the plants to be pegged to, you know, pieces of bark or pieces of wood. You've got to make it look a bit jungle-like to make it look really good, and it needs to be lit, and unless you're going to do that manually every day, it'll need a timer. So, you know, the more you look into it, the more wires and stuff there's going to be. But Lynn's got a really big one that she's done. She's going to do a talk on that at the Orchid Society at some point. Talking of the Orchid Society, there were some plants there yesterday from the few people who bothered turning up. I think there were about 22 out of a membership of 75. I suspect some people thought, oh, it's a bit hot, I don't think we'll go today. Well, you know, we paid quite a lot of money for somebody to come down from the Midlands to do a talk for you people. All you had to do was turn up. We had nobody to run the raffle, so we didn't run a raffle, so we didn't get any income from that. Because there weren't very many people there, we got hardly any income from the catering, because there weren't people there buying cakes and coffee and tea. So you know, our income yesterday was 10 or 11 quid. Our expenses were 180. Hall hire, speaker, you know. So it goes. Bank balance is a bit depleted, but the next item on the agenda is a show. We'll put it all back in and some. So, you know, I'm not worried about the finances. It will be fine. Providing the show works well. The thing that would spoil an orchid show is a day of heavy rain, where people just think, I'm not flipping going out in that. Even though they're going to get in their car and drive there and make a dash to the building. It just puts people off. You get a really wet day, it will put people off, and that will drop our income, obviously. So there we go. And there isn't much else going on out here. There is some more work to do on plants. The dendrobiums that need a repot because they've got some, purely because they've got some cocoa husk in the mix and I want to get it out, they're now going to be left until next spring. Hopefully, with the use of the lights and things, spring will occur at the proper time next year, i.e. earlier in the year and not in the middle of summer. Stop clattering around, you. This little thermometer, I keep knocking it with my shoulder. It's making a noise. So those are going to get left. So the actual work on plants to be done is thinning right down now. There's still a couple of mounts I want to look into, but there really isn't much left now to do. Until next year, so that thins down a bit, the workload. And then we'll be looking at our progress updates, which, you know, we do. We still got our project Orchids to complete. We're on video 4 now. It only goes up to video 5. So those that have already had their video 4 done, they've only got one more. So we get September out of the way, and then we go into October and November to do the 8 again, and that will be their last one. So that will be summing up for the year when we get to there. That's a way off yet. We still got to finish the vid 4s. But we've done Orchid 5, so there's 3 more to go. That'll be each Friday from now on. They'll get done on the right day with any luck. We get those out of the way. And then something completely different for next year, which the ideas, all the sparks for the ideas are already in here, but we'll formalise that you know, in the middle of winter sometime, get Christmas out of the way, and then we'll be thinking about what are we going to do for the, you know, for the coming year. So we'll do that then. So the plants that I've now got in the main are okay. I've still got a couple that aren't happy, but the numbers are low. And in any collection, you're always going to have some that are not doing very well. It's very rare that every single plant you've got in a large-ish collection is doing fine. So I've still got some that aren't doing too well. There's a Cattleya up there that's not very good at all. The last one that I repotted, the Laelia anceps, well, that'll either start growing and start doing well, or it won't. The other few Cattleyas that I've got seem to be doing okay now. Most of the dendrobiums are fine now. Still got a couple of casualties lying around, and quite a lot of kikis now that I didn't have before. Most of the oncidium types are fine. My 2 Miltoniopsis, one's not happy and the other one's iffy, so they're not doing great. The Odontoglossum type oncidiums, they're doing better here than they ever did around the other place, so they're sort of okay. My Coelogenes look good, you know, they've got new growths pushing on. Restrepias, strangely enough, for a cooler grower that really doesn't like heat and likes high humidity, they're doing okay here. They haven't got the humidity. Because I haven't got the heat anymore, I've dropped it down. I don't think I might even, my humidifier might not ever get used again now. I'm using a dehumidifier all the time to get the humidity out of the air overnight. And that seems to have stopped the rot. You know, new growths just rotting off. So, an adapted environment. Now here comes Misery Guts. He's just woken up. It's another one of his habits. He wakes up and he yowls, and then he comes downstairs and he yowls again, and then and he might have something to eat, or he started sleeping on the corner of the settee now during the day. Waits for the sun to come through, then he can sit in the sun without going outside. But yeah, it just sounds so miserable. He's not. It's just a habit he's got into. And the other one I'll end on, because I'm really waffling now, is the Victoria Regina is blooming now better than it ever has. We've got a nice cluster up here, several clusters on the end of this cane, making a nice group, a couple of clusters down here, and another one here. And no show to take it to. It's also got a new growth down here that's pushing on, so we've got a new cane coming. This was the last new cane up here. I think that's finished growing now. But they don't tend to bloom on leaves that have still got canes on, or even canes that have still got leaves on. One of those two. So this cane is destined to bloom probably not until next year after these leaves fall. And this cane should push on and hopefully get up to a similar size. Started late in the year again, but anyway, it's doing okay as far as blooming is concerned, and certainly not short on blooms. And that's one of the orchids that is about as close to blue as you're going to get out of those that pretend to be blue. It's not blue, it's purple, but it's classed as a blue one. There are actually genuine blue orchids, true blue orchids, and I believe across the board, not that there's lots of them, they all come from Australia and they're all terrestrials. So there is such a thing as a real blue orchid, not dyed or coloured in any shape or form. That's the colour they actually are. So that's it. The collection is less variety than it used to be, if you think about it. I mean, if I just start, before we start, over there we've got Restrepias, Odontoglossum types, Miltoniopsis, Masdevallias, a couple of Oncidium types, and the Dendrobium and the Paphiopedilums. So all I'm looking for now is things I haven't already said. So up on there is Dendrobiums, then we've got the Coelogenes all down there. On the mounts there is an Arangus, we haven't said that yet. And then coming round here we've got Miltonias, we haven't said that yet. We've got a Brassivola that might be dead, so I don't know whether I should say that. These are Oncidium types, Dendrobium types. And then some Cattleya types. And that's it. That's not a huge variety, is it, really? That's the types, if you see what I mean. I mean, you've got alliances, the Cattleya alliance. I mean, I've got a Laelia, some Cattleyas, actual Cattleyas, and then I've got the Radiata up there. Comes into the Cattleya alliance, Prosthetias, the Brassivola. What else is there? Something else over there as well. But then you've got the Oncidium alliance, which has got a lot in it. You know, you've got the Brassias, Odontoglossums, Miltonias, Miltoniopsis, Oncidiums themselves. There's a big group there all in one. Do you count the individual sub-species? Or just say Oncidium types? Who knows? How about this then for one of the changes? I have heard, it doesn't affect me because I haven't got any, but the Dendrochilums, these are what I call the rat's tails. They have long spikes, arching spikes mainly, some are upright, with lots and lots and lots of tiny flowers that you need a magnifying glass to see. They're beautiful, but they're tiny. Rat's tails, that's what they look like. They've been reclassified. Apparently they're now Coelogenes. So they've wiped them out. How many shows am I going to go to over the next 10 years, if I'm still alive that long, that are still going to have those marked as Dendrochilums, because people don't know that change has happened? Can take growers, ordinary growers that don't use the internet much, it can take, well, sometimes they never get to hear of these changes until somebody pulls them up at a show. You know, they put one in and they say, that's not called that anymore, it's called this now, can you redo your label? Does get on your throat knees, doesn't it? Anyway, I shall leave it at that. I'm going to have a very lazy day today because I'm drained after yesterday. A stressful day like that is not physically exerting, but when I got home I was absolutely exhausted. I had no tea, because bearing in mind, I thought, I don't care how late I am, I had my breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, you know, and by the time I got to the show it was heading towards 3:30, and I thought, I've had nothing to eat and nothing to drink. So I did stop and get my sandwich, and I did stand outside the meeting and eat my sandwich before I went in, because the talk was still going on. I didn't want to interrupt, so I waited. I had a chat and serve in the kitchen while I was waiting, and got a drink, yay. But yeah, it leaves you drained, But at least I haven't got lots of money to sort out today. We had somebody bought some moss, £2.50, which went in that back pocket, because all the stuff, I just left everything in the car. I thought, I'm not unloading everything at this time of day to put it all back in again, so I'll blow it, can stay in the car. So I had £2.50 because somebody bought one of those flat packs of moss, and the money from the catering and the receipt for the milk. That's all I had. So I put that in this morning. The only thing I haven't been able to do is pay Helen, because Helen has spoken at our Orchid Society before. Lynn assumed that I had her set up as a payee so that I could pay her online direct into her bank. Well, we may have paid her online before, but I suspect it was on the previous bank account. So I haven't got her bank details. I can't pay her until Lynn gets back to me. But she'll have to get on to Helen to ask for them, sort of thing. But we'll manage it. I've paid for the hall, that's just an internet payment. Now what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and yowl, or come out and say hello to people? What you doing? Come on then. Come on you. Come and say hello. Come and say hello, and then you can go outside. Oh. It's all bleary eyed, he's just woken up. You've just woken up. You've just woken up. What are you doing now? Oh, sweet. Come on then, that's what you want to go out there. Oof. Yes, no? Yes. I could get a part-time job in this place as a doorman, opening and shutting the door for him. It's even worse when this one's shut, because there's 2 doors to do to let him out, and then 2 to do to let him in again. But what else am I doing? I don't begrudge anything to do with Mojo. So yeah, that'll do for today. Thank you for the support of the channel, as always. You know, thanks for the patrons, thanks for the members, and thanks for you who view the videos. In some shape or form, that is the bit that indirectly helps the channel. It's the views and the viewers that YouTube are incorporating into that algorithm. It's not necessarily the number of subscribers anymore, although they do have trigger points with that. But my numbers of subscribers, providing they don't substantially drop, are almost irrelevant now. Yeah? That doesn't mean to say if you're watching and you're not subscribed you shouldn't do so. It would be nice if you did. It is a help, even though nowadays it's a bit of a small help. Same with the old thumbs up, the like. All these little things contribute to the channel. And there's a fair bit of that costs nothing, you know, apart from your time watching the videos, obviously. So thanks for that, and thanks for those that are wandering across to the gardening channel and putting the playlist on in the background to clock up my watch hours. Just as an update, we're nearly up to 400 subscribers. I need 500, so that will get there. The watch hours is now up to around 800, so just the 2,200 to go. So any help with that is appreciated. And I have noticed on the gardening channel comments being left by names I've never heard of. So I am starting to get people into the gardening channel that haven't necessarily come from the Orchid channel. They may still have come from the Orchid channel and have never left a comment on the Orchid channel, in which case they would look like a new person. But anyway, it's all going along. I'm doing what I can, and there is progress. You know, it's not, we haven't stagnated. We're certainly not going downhill. So it is uphill at a rate. It could be quicker, it could be slower. So we appreciate what we've got, you know. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. I was talking to somebody at the Orchid Society just as about, it doesn't matter who it was, but it was somebody quite important. And they said, how's your channel going? And, you know, I said, you know, this, that and the other. And then it suddenly dawned on me, that probably means they watch. That was good. But it made me stop and think, how is the channel going? And it's going okay, you know. There's a lot of orchid channels now that are not progressing very much, unfortunately. And I think I can stick my neck out a little bit and say there might be just a few too many around now. For, you know, take it back to YouTube's point of view, the viewer. Let's call me the viewer for now, because I do watch other people's. So I'm now the viewer, and I've got some spare time, say an hour, maybe an hour and a half. How many videos can you watch in that time? 3, 4, maybe 5, depending on their length. And are you going to start getting bored with just watching orchid videos by the time you get to the end of that hour and a half and want to watch something else? Like somebody fishing, or, you know, deep sea diving, or, you know, mountain climbing, you know, whatever your other interests are. So each viewer has only got so much of their spare time to spend watching videos. And in each niche, like I'm in a bonsai niche, there's not many people in that niche, and there's not many channels. Yeah? But there are also quite a lot of foreign ones that are foreign speaking, not in English. And there's some brilliant ones, but they're not in English. You get the subtitles. It's like watching one of those illegal films that you've downloaded. But, you know, the orchid niche is quite large, but compared with like gaming or sporting, or, you know, there are some things that are just huge, and an orchid niche is never going to compete. And now I've started in a gardening niche, which is bigger than the orchid niche. So potentially that's the channel that could take off, if any is going to. It's a long time to catch up with the orchid one, won't it? If you think how long that's been going. I've been going a long time now. Yeah, but I enjoy it. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.